Matthew 26:17 through 75 is a large portion of scripture that details events leading up to Jesus' crucifixion. We first begin that Jesus and his disciples are preparing the Passover meal, and this is where Jesus predicts that one of his disciples will betray him. Later on in that meal, Jesus institutes the Lord's Supper, where the bread represents his body and the wine represents his blood. After the meal, Jesus and his disciples go to the garden, where Jesus prays and his disciples fall asleep. Then, later on, Judas arrives with a group of soldiers and he betrays Jesus. And this leads up to Jesus' arrest. Jesus is brought before the Sanhedrin when he is sentenced to death. Last we see Peter. We had previously seen his loyalty to Jesus, but here Peter denies Jesus 3 times. So this passage reveals 3 important truths. This block of passage reveals 3 important truths about Jesus and his followers. So we first see Jesus knew that what was going to happen, and he willingly endured it for our sake. So Jesus knew what was going to happen all throughout this passage, and he did it all for our sake. Jesus knew that Judas would betray him. He knew Peter would deny him, that he would face the Sanhedrin, where he would be sentenced to be crucified. Yet he chose to go through all this because of his great love for us. As believers, we can take comfort in knowing that Jesus understands our pain and suffering and is always with us, even in the chaotic moments in our life. So the second truth that we see in this passage of scripture, Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper as a reminder of his sacrifice. During the Passover meal, Jesus took bread and wine, blessed them, and shared them with his disciples. He explained that the bread represented his body, which would be broken for them, and the wine represents his blood, which would be shed for the forgiveness of sins. So as believers, we continue to celebrate the Lord's Supper as a reminder of Jesus' sacrifice for us, the new covenant that was established. Then the last truth that we see in this passage of scripture, even the most faithful disciples can fall. Now Peter, he was one of the closest followers of Jesus, but he denied Jesus 3 times. This shows us that even those who love Jesus and have seen him, was close with him for a long time, they still struggled with doubts and fear. However, we can have great comfort in knowing that Jesus forgives us when we fail, when we fall, and that he can use the failure for his glory. So as we reflect on this large portion of scripture in Matthew 26:17 through 75, let us remember Jesus' great love for us and renew our commitment to follow him even when there is difficulty, even when there are chaotic moments in our life.